You ever tried to solve a Rubik's Cube blindfolded? You twist and turn, thinking you're making progress, until you take off the blindfold and realize it's more scrambled than when you started. That's what it's like trying to understand the female brain using male logic. You're running Android code on iOS. Two completely different operating systems, and you wonder why everything keeps crashing. Men think they're communicating. Women are testing. Men think they're solving problems. Women are measuring reactions. And that single difference is why men lose the game they don't even realize they're playing. Because here's the truth no one wants to say out loud: the female brain wasn't designed for logic. It was designed for survival. Not through brute strength. Not through creation. Through extraction. Through emotional manipulation, social dominance, and selective vulnerability. And once you understand that, everything, every fight, every contradiction, every "I'm fine," suddenly makes horrifying sense. I've seen it hundreds of times. A man comes to me broken, confused, asking, "Why did she leave?" I gave her everything. And that's exactly why she left. Because the moment you gave her everything, you became nothing. You stopped being the prize, the challenge, the mystery. You became the finished puzzle she no longer wanted to solve. A woman's brain doesn't fall in love with comfort. It falls in love with struggle. The moment the game ends, the attraction dies. You ever noticed how men and women argue? When a man argues, his brain lights up in the logical centers. What's the problem? How do we fix it? When a woman argues, her brain lights up in the emotional and memory centers. She's not fighting about what happened. She's fighting about everything that ever happened. You're talking about this week's issue. She's fighting you for something you said in 2018. You're in the present. She's everywhere at once. That's not manipulation. That's her wiring. The female brain is always running a hidden code. Think of it like an algorithm, one that calculates 4 variables every second of every day. How does this make me feel right now? Not tomorrow. Not next year. Right now. The female brain doesn't plan for happiness. It hunts for emotion. What can I extract from this interaction? Time, attention, resources, status. It's not greed, it's instinct. The female mind is biologically trained to maximize gain with minimal effort. How does this affect my position compared to other women? Forget this sisterhood myth. Women compete silently, socially, and relentlessly. Every post, every outfit, every compliment. It's a chess move in a hierarchy game. Can I do better? The question that never stops running. The background process that never sleeps. Like a subconscious stock trader scanning for higher value options 24/7. That's why loyalty in her mind doesn't mean what you think it does. You think loyalty means staying through good and bad. She thinks loyalty means staying as long as you're winning. Stop improving, stop competing, stop being the prize, and she sees it as you abandoning her. It's why men who give everything end up with nothing. Because a woman's brain reads your peace as boredom, your consistency as weakness, your comfort as neglect. When you stop chasing, she stops caring. In her subconscious mind, if you're not fighting for her, it must mean she's not worth fighting for. You see it in modern relationships all the time. She leaves the emotionally unavailable man for the one who finally listens. 6 months later, she leaves that guy too, because now he's too needy. Neither man changed. The context did. Her brain isn't measuring love. It's measuring change. It's not that she wanted attention, she wanted the feeling of earning it. Once she has it, the emotional currency devalues and she starts searching for a new source. And that's where men misunderstand the most. A woman doesn't fall in love with you. She falls in love with how you make her feel about herself. You're not the prize, you're the mirror. And when that reflection stops flattering her, she smashes the mirror and blames it for being broken. That's not cynicism, that's biology. Because her brain was designed not to bond permanently, but to adapt constantly. In the ancestral world, this adaptability kept her alive. In the modern world, it makes men disposable. Every interaction you have with a woman, every look, every silence, every laugh, is a data exchange in that emotional algorithm. And the moment your signal weakens, she starts scanning for replacements. That's not evil. That's efficiency. She doesn't want stability. She wants stimulation. She doesn't want peace. She wants proof. Proof that you still want her. Proof that you still deserve her. Proof that you're still above the rest. You can see this in her language too. When she says, "I just wish you'd open up," she doesn't mean it literally. She's testing your boundaries. She wants to know if she can break through your frame. And when she finally does, when you pour your heart out, expose your pain, show her your fears, she feels relief for a moment, and then disgust. Because the test wasn't about understanding you. It was about making sure you could be broken. And once she sees that you can, she loses the very attraction she was pretending to fight for. That's the paradox most men never recover from. You do what she asks, and lose her because of it. You follow her instructions, and fail the test you didn't know you were taking. That's the female brain in motion. Not cruel. Not evil. Just coded for survival in a world that no longer requires it. You're not fighting a woman. You're fighting an ancient operating system running in the background of modern relationships. A system that rewards extraction, emotional testing, and perpetual dissatisfaction. And the more you try to understand it through logic, the deeper you sink into confusion. Because logic was never part of her design. Now that you understand the foundation, the emotional algorithm driving the female brain, let's go deeper. Let's look at the actual code that runs beneath the surface. Because once you see it, you'll never look at a conversation, a fight, or even a smile from a woman the same way again. Let's start with something scientists call emotional prioritization. When a man faces conflict, his brain activates logic centers. He looks for a solution, a way to fix the problem. When a woman faces conflict, her emotional and memory networks light up like a fireworks show. She's not in the moment, she's in every moment. You're talking about what's happening today, she's reliving what you said 3 months ago, what you forgot 2 birthdays ago, and how your tone felt in 2019. You're in the present. She's in the timeline of every emotion you've ever caused her. That's why when you argue you feel like you're fighting ghosts. Because you are. You're fighting every past version of yourself she's stored in her emotional database, and she's replaying them all at once. Here's the cruel beauty of her brain. It doesn't seek truth, it seeks emotional consistency. She doesn't care if you're right, she cares if she feels right. And if you make her feel wrong, her brain rewrites history until it makes sense emotionally, not logically. That's why she can contradict herself on Monday and swear she's always been consistent by Friday. Her brain doesn't see contradictions, it sees adaptation. You know what happens when you put multiple women in the same environment? Their cycles align. Their speech patterns sync. Even their neural rhythms begin to harmonize. But this isn't cooperation, it's competition disguised as bonding. Every girl's night is a psychological battlefield of subtle hierarchy testing. Every compliment hides an implied comparison. Every, "you look amazing" really means you're not a threat to me, yet. That's the female social matrix, an invisible web of competition and comparison. A woman doesn't measure happiness by whether she has a good man. She measures it by whether she has a better man than the women around her. You could be faithful, loving, and hardworking, but if her friend's boyfriend takes her to Dubai, suddenly your loyalty feels boring. She's not comparing love. She's comparing status. And when she feels her ranking slip, her emotional stability starts to crack. Social media made this 10 times worse. Now her competition isn't her friend group, it's the entire world. Every filtered picture, every highlight reel, every perfect couple post becomes ammunition for her subconscious evaluation system. She's no longer comparing you to her ex. She's comparing you to everyone else's fantasy. And you can't compete with fantasy. You'll lose every time. Let's talk about the must-have/don't-want paradox, the code error that drives most men insane. She says she wants a man who's open, but loses attraction when he shows vulnerability. She says she wants a man who's successful, but resents the time his success requires. She says she wants commitment, but once she gets it, she starts craving the thrill of uncertainty again. This isn't hypocrisy. This is evolutionary logic. Her brain was programmed for optimization, not consistency. When she says, "I want this," what she really means is, "I want this for now, until my emotional calculus changes." Her attraction is dynamic, not static. It shifts with her hormonal cycles, her environment, her stress, her peers' relationships, even the kind of movie she watches that week. You think she's moody? She thinks she's adapting. There's a reason ancient psychology called women emotional weather systems. They change not because they're unreliable, but because emotional flux is their reliability. Her emotions are how she navigates reality. You use facts as a compass, she uses feelings. That's why when you try to explain logically, "That's not what I meant, that's not what happened," you're wasting your breath. Her logic doesn't live in words. It lives in the emotional energy behind them. You could say all the right things, but if her nervous system doesn't feel safe, respected, or desired, her brain rewrites the meaning of your words on the spot. She's not hearing what you're saying, she's hearing what your tone and timing suggest emotionally. And then there's the extraction loop, the biological software she's been running since the dawn of humanity. When our ancestors hunted, women couldn't rely on physical strength for survival. So nature gave them something more powerful, the ability to extract protection, provision, and attention through emotional leverage. That's where the modern test comes from. Every complaint, every argument, every emotional storm is just an audit of your value. She doesn't test you to destroy you. She tests you to confirm that you're still capable of protecting her. Can you stay grounded when she's irrational? Can you lead when she's emotional chaos? Can you remain unshaken when she tries to provoke you? Because if you can't, her instincts classify you as unsafe, unfit, unworthy. And that's when attraction dies. But here's where modern life has broken the system. Women don't need men for survival anymore, but the code still runs. So instead of extracting resources, they extract validation. Instead of food, they want attention. Instead of protection, they want emotional labor. It's the same instinct wearing different clothes. Her brain doesn't know the difference between your affection and your submission. It just records the energy exchange. You think you're showing love. She thinks she's testing power. And when you fail that test, by over-explaining, apologizing too soon, bending to please, she loses the very attraction you were trying to earn. That's the paradox. You lose her by trying to keep her. Because she's not wired to love the man who gives everything, she's wired to love the man she can't quite figure out. And that's not manipulation. That's biology in motion. Her brain is coded for challenge, for tension, for uncertainty, because that's what kept her ancestors alive. Predictable men never survived the chaos. Only the ones who could maintain calm through the storm, who could hold frame no matter what, passed the test. So the next time she says, "I just want a real man," remember, she's not asking for perfection. She's asking for polarity, for energy, for something she can feel. By now you've probably started seeing the pattern. Emotion isn't chaos in the female mind. It's control. Every tear, every silence, every shift in tone is a move in a psychological chess game she might not even consciously know she's playing. Let's talk about what I call the guilt-fear operating system, the oldest and most effective form of control on Earth. It starts innocent. A look of disappointment. A quiet, "I just feel like you don't care anymore." And suddenly you're explaining yourself, justifying your choices, apologizing for things you didn't even do. You're not thinking logically anymore. You're processing through guilt. Guilt is the first layer of control. It convinces you that you owe her something, time, effort, energy, attention, because you made her feel bad. You start correcting your behavior not out of love, but out of fear of causing emotional pain. And that's when the second layer activates: fear. Fear of losing her. Fear of disappointing her. Fear of being seen as the bad man. Now, every decision you make runs through that invisible filter. Will this upset her? Will she withdraw? Will she stop loving me? Congratulations, you're no longer leading the relationship. You're reacting to it. You've stopped being a man and started being an emotional employee working for approval. This is where most men lose themselves, slowly, quietly, with good intentions. They call it being supportive, being caring, being emotionally available. But what it really means is that she's now running the code and you're following the script. Every argument becomes a courtroom. Every disagreement, a confession. You're defending yourself against crimes that never even happened. It's not that women are evil, it's that their biology rewards emotional dominance. When she can make you bend, she feels safe. When she can destabilize you, she feels powerful. When she can guilt you into submission, her nervous system relaxes, because control equals safety. You know what's fascinating? When researchers study how mothers raise sons versus daughters, they find something that explains everything about adult relationships. Boys are taught that love is earned through achievement. Girls are taught that love is owed through existence. Prove yourself versus you deserve everything. That's where the divide begins. One learns to chase approval. The other learns to withhold it. And then they grow up and start dating each other. The boy becomes the man who tries to prove his worth through constant giving, fixing, pleasing. The girl becomes the woman who measures love by how much she can extract without earning it. It's not malicious, it's programming. Installed by parents. Updated by culture. Reinforced by society. Now, take that system and place it in modern relationships. A world of instant gratification, infinite options, and dopamine addiction. The result? A woman who no longer needs physical survival resources but still runs extraction software. She doesn't need your wallet, she needs your attention. She doesn't need your protection, she needs your validation. And she'll subconsciously test, drain, and manipulate until she confirms that she still has it. That's why emotional drama isn't random, it's a signal. When her validation reserves drop, she manufactures conflict to force an emotional deposit. She doesn't want peace. Peace is boring. She wants emotional proof. If you don't give it willingly, she'll provoke it. Tears, distance, passive aggression. It's not chaos, it's maintenance. Drama is the tax she charges for access to her emotions. Here's the cruelest part: the more you try to fix it, the deeper you sink. Because logic is gasoline to emotional fire. You say, let's talk calmly. She hears, you don't care enough. You say, that's not what I meant. She hears, you're invalidating my feelings. You can't win by explaining. You win by anchoring. By standing firm while her emotions swing like a pendulum. By showing that you can't be guilt, baited, or broken. And when you do that, when you stop reacting, when you stay calm, something amazing happens. Her emotional chaos collapses. Because deep down, every woman is searching for one thing: a man who doesn't drown in her storms. The moment she realizes you can't be manipulated, she stops trying to control you and starts respecting you. But almost no man ever gets to that point, because the guilt-fear program runs too deep. They've been trained since childhood to equate female emotion with moral truth. If she's crying, I must have done something wrong. No, brother, if she's crying, she's testing something right. She's measuring your ability to stay composed under emotional fire. Remember, emotions are tools for her, not obstacles. When she's sad, it's often strategy. When she's angry, it's often calculation. When she's quiet, it's surveillance. She doesn't just feel, she uses feelings. And if you mistake tools for truth, you'll spend your life trying to fix weapons aimed at you. The only escape from this cycle is awareness. Once you see the program, you can't be controlled by it. Once you realize guilt and fear are manipulation triggers, you stop flinching when they're pulled. You stop over-explaining. You stop apologizing for existing. You reclaim the one thing she can't control: your emotional state. Because here's the secret nobody tells you. The moment you stop being reactive, she starts feeling something she hasn't felt in years: attraction. Real attraction. Not to your compliance, but to your stability. To your unshakable presence. To the man who doesn't ask, what should I do? But simply is. That's when you shift from being the pawn in her game to being the player who finally understands the board. Here's where everything comes together, the part that most men never see until it's too late. You think love is mutual. That it's two people building together, growing together, protecting each other. But to truly understand how the female brain works, you have to accept the most uncomfortable truth of all. Love to a woman isn't about who you are, it's about how you make her feel about herself. Her love is not a constant. It's a mirror. It reflects her self-image, her emotions, her power. When she looks at you and feels desirable, safe, adored, she calls that love. When she looks at you and feels invisible, stagnant, or unvalidated, she calls that falling out of love. It's not you changing. It's her reflection that changed. That's why her affection fades not when you hurt her, but when she stops feeling beautiful in your presence. And the cruel irony? The more you love her for who she is, the less she loves you for who you are. Because your unconditional devotion removes the very uncertainty her brain feeds on. Love to her must have tension, otherwise it dies. Women are emotional economists. They trade attention for validation, affection for control, vulnerability for leverage. And in that economy, the moment you flood the market with supply, your value crashes. You become cheap, predictable, unmysterious. You ever wonder why she starts fights over nothing? Because peace feels like boredom. Her brain craves emotional motion. Even negative energy is better than silence. She doesn't need happiness. She needs stimulation. That's why she'll sabotage a calm relationship just to feel alive again. You can give her stability, but she'll secretly crave chaos. You can give her loyalty, but she'll test it until it breaks. You can give her everything, but she'll still wonder if there's something more. That's not because she's broken. It's because she's wired for extraction, not equilibrium. Her nature is to pull, not to build. Look around. Every generation that prioritized female comfort over male discipline fell the same way. Rome, Greece, Babylon, civilizations that collapsed when emotions became morality. Because when feelings become the measure of truth, accountability dies. And when accountability dies, everything else follows. We now live in a culture built entirely around female psychology, validation over responsibility, attention over achievement, comfort over challenge. And men are suffocating in it. They're told to open up, soften, emote, but the moment they do, they're discarded. Because vulnerability might win sympathy, but it kills attraction. Women don't respect men they can control. They crave the illusion of power, not its reality. The moment they actually have power over you, they lose all interest. That's why she'll say, "I want you to be honest with me," and then punish you for your honesty. Because the test was never about truth, it was about strength. Could you resist the temptation to comply? Could you stay centered even when she begged you to fold? Most men fail that test, not because they're weak but because they think love means compliance. But women don't fall in love with men who obey them. They fall in love with men they can't fully conquer. The female brain runs on an ancient code: attraction through uncertainty, control through emotion, security through validation. She doesn't want equality. She wants advantage. Equality is boring, advantage feels safe. She'll demand your emotions, then resent you for showing them. She'll demand your loyalty, then test if she can break it. She'll demand your time, then punish you for not being ambitious enough. And the moment you start believing her words instead of watching her patterns, you lose. Because words are how she hides the truth. Behavior is how she reveals it. You know what's terrifying? Her memory rewrites itself after every breakup. You go from "the best thing that ever happened" to "the man who never understood her." She's not lying. Her brain literally edits the past to protect her ego. That's why you can never win the narrative. You're not in the courtroom, you're in her subconscious. So what do you do with all of this knowledge? You stop trying to rewrite her code. You can't change it. You can only understand it, and play accordingly. You stop expecting her to think like a man. You stop arguing with emotion using logic. You stop trying to earn love that's designed to fluctuate. You stand your ground. You stay calm. You observe, not react. You become the man who can't be guilt, broken, or manipulated. The man who doesn't beg for validation because he creates his own. Because once you see the system for what it is, you realize something freeing. You were never losing her. You were just waking up. The female brain isn't evil, it's efficient. It's doing exactly what evolution built it to do. But the tragedy is that men keep confusing instinct for intimacy. They keep mistaking extraction for love. And the moment you stop doing that, the moment you start seeing the pattern, you take back your power. You stop being a pawn in her emotional economy. You stop trying to win a game designed for you to lose. You can't change her nature, but you can master your own. And that's the only way to stop being the man she drains, and become the man she can never forget.